everybody, Cal Banyan here, Cal Banyan's Hypnosis, etc. with Meredith Locke. Let me tell you about Meredith. I don't know why I'm doing this accent. I do a terrible accent. Anyway, back to myself. Meredith Locke is a true 1%er in the profession. No, she doesn't ride a Harley. No, she won't let you see her in leather. But when it comes to being the best of the best in the profession, she's one of the best. And if I had a friend in the LA area that wanted to do some real serious work, improve their lives using hypnosis, I'd send her or him to Meredith Locke. She's got a master's degree, she's an author, and of course she is one of our favorite ever podcast hostesses, along with Celeste. How you doing, Meredith?
I'm doing so good, Cal. How are you?
Good. I think I've had too much caffeine today. Does Lipton Black Label have caffeine?
Indeed it does.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
I love it when you're on caffeine, Cal. It makes the brain excavation that much easier.
I'll just have to have a scotch at lunch.
There you
That'll
go.
neutralize it out.
Yeah, well, I'm not quite sure if you guys know the vastness that is Cal, but Cal is one of the most amazing people that I have ever met. Don't, take all the hard exterior seriously. He is a man with an amazing heart who really cares about people, cares about changing the world one class at a time, one teacher at a time, one student at a time, one client at a time. And he sees clients here at the Banyan Hypnosis Center where we're filming today. And if I absolutely had a friend, a loved one, a family member, anyone at all, a client to refer, I would send them here. If I had work to do myself, my goodness, who would I go to other than Cal? I would go to Cal and have him excavate my brain. And he does that best. He's been sharing with us all kinds of information. Very excited today to continue on. But first, Cal, do you have any announcements?
I have announcements. I'm using my hypno voice and my hypno disc because you're going to talk about our upcoming naked episode.
Oh yes. Have we forgotten to tell you? Upcoming, we will be doing a naked episode. It will be quite fun. It will be quite exploratory. Well, maybe not. Well, yes, it will. And, we figured that in honor of spring, and we may not get to it just this filming time, but in honor of spring, we're going to be doing an upcoming episode on working with sexual issues. And so what better time to do a naked episode, right? Won't that be fun? And when you watch it, you have to be naked too. That's the deal. We have a contract. Let's shake on that.
I am creating hypno discs because if we ever have a naked episode, I'm going to be behind the hypno disc. And everyone who watches the episode will have to sign something that says that they are over 18 years old and blind. How's that?
Sounds good to me.
Because I wouldn't want to scare anybody away from ever watching one of our shows. Okay, let's see. Did I mention calbanyan.com? There's the website right there, calbanyan.com. Let's roll. Where did we leave off last week?
All right, let's do it. Well, one quick announcement that I have first, though. We do need your questions. We do need your feedback. We are excited about it. We look forward to it. Please do share. You can, right here on calbanyan.com, you can post feedback and questions there. I do go there, and as does Elron, and respond to those things and pull information off of there, as of course does Cal. You can also go to our Hypnospace, which is currently being upgraded and updated, and all kinds of fun and exciting things there. So if you haven't been there recently, please do check it out. And there is an Ask Cal group where you can post questions, and we go there really probably maybe at the same time even that we look at calbanyan.com. Probably the first two places we look would be there. And then you can also email me directly, Meredith at yourpathhypnosis.com. You can always contact Cal. His contact information will be down below here. And let's get into it. So we have been talking about the future reinforcing events and the use of those future reinforcing events in age progression to help clients just really get what it is that you're helping them to get, to solidify it, to live it, to experience it ahead of time, to set expectation that they can then live up to, and to empower them and show them that it is easy, that they can do it. They can be in that sport event and be successful and feel amazing, that they can be at that buffet and eat just the right moderate portion of food, that they can be at that bar and choose not to have a cigarette. And so it's powerful stuff. We've been really digging deeper and sharing things that have never been shared here before about this technique. And I have a few more questions about it. And so before I launch into my questions, Cal, is there any more support or basis that you want to build upon before we go there into the future?
Well, I do have one quick announcement, and then we'll get back to this. I know somebody is looking for a hypnodisc. That's why I was holding up my little hypnodisc, actually, because I wanted to remind myself, if I know someone's looking for one of those electric hypnodisc thingies, and he'd like to know where to get one. So if you know where to get one of those hypnodisc thingies, then, like, it's electric, then leave a comment below, and I'd like to pass along the word. Okay, also, now that's enough. Let's get on. I thought we'd covered all this stuff. There's more to cover with age progression.
See, you just don't know everything that you know until I ask the question, and then you know that you don't know, or someone doesn't know. Anyway, we want people to know what they want to know. And there's more. There's more about this. And so what I want to know is, you touched on this a little, but I wanted to bring the point home and see if you have anything to add to it. So what you talked about in the last episode was that we can do age progression work after any insight-based therapy. And so it doesn't just have to be a tag-on to age regression. It can certainly be done after forgiveness work, forgiveness of others, forgiveness of self, even parts mediation therapy. And so, a technical question would be, if I am doing age regression and I run out of time, because time does tend to run out sometimes in these sessions. You run out of time, don't have time to do age progression. What it sounds like you're saying is, as opposed to starting out the next session with some age progression and then going into the next phase, if you're a five-pather, or whatever next tool you're going to use if you're not, it would be best to go ahead and do that insight-based therapy. So for five-pathers, the next phase would be forgiveness of others if you've actually wrapped up age regression. And so what it sounds like you said was, we should go ahead and do forgiveness of others, and then based on that insight and those insights that came out of that, launch into age progression work. Am I right?
Well, you know what? I think you're one of the smartest women I ever met, because that question was so complicated. I don't know if I can even comprehend it. Let me see if I can get some of it, and then whatever I leave out, you can continue with, okay?
Yes.
Oh boy, the trouble I get myself into sometimes. Okay, so let me say that age progression can be used at any time that you think it would benefit the client. Now, so you don't have to do insight techniques to do age regression. For example, if you're working with a sports figure like we talked about, someone who's in sports, like golf, you don't want to start running through a bunch of age regression while they're in the middle of a tournament, because it kind of scrambles their brains. It's because what happens is it can be very emotional and thought-provoking, and you don't want to distract them away from doing well in their sport. So in the off season, we would get in here and do the age regression and forgiveness work and that kind of stuff. But while they're in the tournament, we can do age progression work where they practice skills and stuff like that without any kind of insight work. Okay, it's much more powerful when we can add the insight work to it. Okay, what else haven't I covered in that question?
Right. Well, so to me, that's a given. Of course, this is a successful thing to use with any client at any time, no matter what. But we're looking for the best here. We want to be the Hypno 1%ers. And so if we want to get the most out of it, what we know is that people are much more suggestible, if you will, after the insight-based therapy. And so if you are a Hypno 1%er, and if you have not had time to do it after the insight-based age regression therapy, then what would make the most sense is not to start the next session with it, but to end the next insight-based session. Is that true?
I don't. You got to remember that the work you did is there. It's right there in the subconscious mind. We don't have memory problems, we have recall problems. And it is in there just as real and as fresh at the beginning of your next session as it was at the end of the last session. So if I would not necessarily say, and I don't think you are either, never start off with age progression. If I thought for some reason that the client would benefit from doing age progression at the beginning of the next session, when I didn't have time to do it at the end of the last session, I would do it. And then I could move into the next technique. It also depends on, how long are your sessions. Some people, they have hour-long sessions, some hour 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours. And if I was doing what I would consider a double session, which is 2 to 2.5 hours work, then I wouldn't have any problem with doing the age progression sandwich and actually starting off with some age progression and then doing whatever technique I'm doing next, like maybe forgiveness of others, and then doing some more age progression work. As you begin to use this technique more and more, you get an idea of the effect that it has for positive change with people, and you begin to get very good at integrating it into the processes you use, and also doing them more efficiently. It doesn't have to take a long time to do the age progression work. But Meredith, you're right on. Doing it at the end after an insight-based process like the age regression, the forgiveness work, the parts work is the most powerful way. So idealistically, and you were asking what's the best way, you're right, is to do it after an insight process. Do that segue to reinforce the insights made, and then integrate it into where you take them in the age progression. And by the way, you guys, if you're watching this video as the first video, we've been on this topic for about 3 episodes. Go back 2 episodes and kind of watch the whole thing, or this is going to kind of be all mixed up for you. How's that, Meredith?
Perfect. And so moving on. So if you have a client coming in for an issue that's less behavior-based, how can the future reinforcing event or age progression work be helpful in that? So say you have a client, and since we don't diagnose, they were already diagnosed with depression. They're now looking for some sort of an alternative process for that, and they come into you, or somebody who has just a generalized insecurity in the world, or even somebody maybe who's dealing with grief. How could you use age progression with people like that?
Okay, well, I'm a little bit, I think of things slightly different than the way you're phrasing them, because you start off talking about behavioral based, but then you start talking about a lot of emotional stuff, and they are connected. That the emotion happens, and then we behave. So just to clarify for our viewers and listeners, is that so if they're doing something like biting their nails, or any kind of behavior that they want to change, eating too much, smoking too much, biting their nails too much, these what we call the too much behaviors, it's because they have a feeling inside them they don't like. And you gave an example, a couple of different feelings, and maybe anxiety or depression. And typically we work with what I call normal healthy depression, and there's really 2 kinds of depression. One is normal healthy depression, and that's where people go through events that would make anybody depressed. The loss of a home, the loss of a loved one, loss of a job, this kind of thing, and then major depression, which is a psychiatric disorder. When they are experiencing what I like to call normal healthy depression, it is really tertiary to a primary feeling. And to learn more about these primary, secondary, and tertiary feelings, go to www.thesecretlanguageoffeelings.com. I really explain it in there. Hypnotherapists, all therapists should kind of understand this, that there's a feeling inside them they don't like. And it could be sadness, it could be loneliness, it could be fear, whatever, guilt. And when they're unable to satisfy those feelings and they persist, they become frustrated. And as they continue to try to deal with that emotion without success, eventually they'll become depressed. So we could start off with anxiety, and the person has this ongoing feeling of anxiety. They try to work on it, and nothing helps. And so they try distracting themselves with food and drink and alcohol and cigarettes and shopping. Everyone knows when the going gets tough, the tough go shopping, right? So that doesn't work because the cause of the feeling is in the subconscious mind, not in their present. And so with the regression, we could neutralize it. But with that frustration eventually can turn to, oh, the heck with it, I give up. And that is the kind of the transition in thinking that becomes depression. So with the 5-path or other insight techniques that you use, we go in and we neutralize the cause. Now, as you were saying, Meredith, what about the behavioral kinds of things? Well, the eating too much, drinking too much, smoking too much, whatever the too much behavior is that we can then direct them to go into a probable future event where they would likely to have in the past succumbed to doing those behaviors. But now that we have neutralized those emotions, the drive to do those behaviors have been eliminated. So I'm going to count from 1 to 5. When I get to 5, you're going to be there free of the drive or the desire to do whatever the behavior is. Here we go. And a lot of times, I'm not known as being the most permissive guy in my sessions, but a lot of times it's very helpful at that point to say, if that's okay with you, nod your head. And that permission, as soon as they give me permission, it seems to increase the probability that they're going to go through that event with no problem. So I go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, be there, and there they are, and they start describing the event, pre-living it, pre-vivifying it, in all of its glory, experiencing that success. Good. What else in that question have I not covered yet?
Well, so what if, because, I often work with clients where they don't particularly have obvious distractors that need to be changed, or, that really it's just a matter of, with depression where they're just stopping life and withdrawing and all of that. And so what I'm getting at is when that's the issue and it's not really a focus on a behavior and it's more they're coming to you straight for emotional reasons, how would that look like to bring them into the future to experience the absence of that? What would it look like in that instance?
Okay, what we would do is the same as when we do age regression. We have the Fantastic 5 or the Fab 5 questions, and that is what's happening, what are you thinking, what are you feeling, how old are you, and is it familiar or new? Well, when we do the age progression work, we're going to borrow some of those questions. We're going to take them into that situation and say, what's happening, now what are you thinking? Now what are you feeling? And they can describe how these changes internally, the cognitive and emotional, are being experienced in that event. And I really have them describe to me how that event is now different, and better, and that kind of stuff. And another thing that's really useful, whenever I see a client, I have them fill out a benefits form, and I want to make sure they're experiencing those benefits that they came in to experience, whatever they are, be it behavioral change, emotional change, are they now feeling confident instead of anxious or shy, and that kind of thing, and just have them report it. And while they're there in the situation, I can say, just be there. Now they report. I say, what's happening? Well, I'm at this social event. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that I can get through this okay. Good. How are you feeling? I'm feeling good. I'm feeling confident. Good. Just sit there and soak in that confidence. Just feel it. That's who you really are. So it's a time where we can also plug in some direct suggestions to really reinforce the change that they're experiencing, particularly with regard to achieving the benefits they came in to achieve.
Beautiful. So one last question. And I know, Cal, this doesn't really happen to you, and this hasn't happened to me. But I know someone out there will ask this. what if you take them there and the behavior still exists, or the pain, essentially the feeling that they don't like, is still occurring in that future experience? What then?
Well, that's exactly what I was going to talk about if you didn't ask it. So very good question, wherever that came from. That's one of the reasons I started doing age progression work, is I thought, okay, the age regression is a reality check about how they're feeling now. I started doing the age progression work because I wanted to test if the work I had done with the client in the session really stuck. See, when we go back and we do find the ISE, the initial sensitizing event, and then we run them through the SSEs, we're reinforcing the change, but we're also checking to make sure the change stuck. And then we take them into the probable future, and it's another way where we can see if the change really stuck and if it is going to likely to function, to be taken into their future reality. That's one of the first reasons I ever started doing it. Now, so what if you go and you find out they're not really fully as transformed in the future as you'd like? Perfect. That's one of the reasons we did it. So we ask them, what's happening? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? And if they start reporting the thoughts that they came in to neutralize, or the emotions that they came in to neutralize that you thought you took care of in the ISE, or, and this is another one, an emotion can come up that is inhibiting success that was not revealed in an earlier process. For example, it's a sadness that is revealed in the age progression that's inhibiting success in the future that wasn't revealed in the age regression. So that's beautiful, that's perfect. You just say, focus on that feeling. I'm going to count from 5 back to 1. We're going to go back to an earlier time when you felt that way, and you just spring right back into age regression, particularly if it's any feeling other than anger or guilt. If I run into anger, then I'm going to immediately take them back into the round room and do the forgiveness of others. If they say, I'm angry, and I'll say, okay, what are you thinking? And when they tell me what they're thinking, they're going to tell me what's the cause of the anger. I'm thinking that, let's say they say, I'm thinking about how I wouldn't be in this situation if my dad would have raised me right. What does that tell me? That he's still angry with his dad. So I need to do more forgiveness work with that. Boom, right back into phase 3. If they're feeling guilty, then, and I thought that we had taken care of that, then in past sessions, then boom, we'll go right into the round room and do forgiveness of self. Now, if this happens in an age progression in which I have just completed age regression, phase 2, age regression work, and I have not yet, and I take them into the future and I find out they're angry about something and it interferes, or they're guilty about something and it interferes with the success, I say, future self, don't worry about it. I know exactly what to do. I know how to take care of that in the next session. And we anticipate that there's going to be some feelings of anger. That's why forgiveness of others is incorporated standard default process in 5-path. We accept that there's going to be some feelings of guilt associated with the issue. That's why forgiveness of self is associated with the issue. And also, sometimes the person will have trouble in the probable future because of they are conflicted over making the change. And of course that indicates that I'm going to be doing parts mediation work with that individual, which is phase 5. So what I will do, if those things come up, I will say, how much better are you than you would have been? And they'll say, oh, I'm so much better, but I'm not all the way there. I say, well, good. Let's focus on how much better you're handling the situation. Next session, we're going to take care of the rest of it. Okay? And so what we're able to do is to assess where we are in the process by doing the age progression work. We just finished the age regression and we do age progression. If the feeling exists in the future and it's inhibiting that we thought we worked on in the age regression, then that lets us know more age regression needs to be done. If we have time, we can just follow that feeling back, get it done. Otherwise, we save it for the next session. And if it is anger or guilt, that's okay. We focus on how much better they are now because of the work we've done so far, and let them know that in these future sessions, we're going to get rid of those feelings too, and then they can be 100% successful in the probable future. But they still have the mental expectation of doing better than they would have if they hadn't done the work they've done so far. Phew.
Cal, just awesome. High five. High five to you right now. I am loving this. I think this series is going to be my absolute favorite of all time.
See, I thought everybody knew that stuff.
You don't know what you know until you know someone else doesn't know. Something like that.
You
Anyway.
know, one of the really things that I really love about doing these podcasts is, you know, I got to tell you, our week of power is awesome, and I can give so much information. I give out so much information. Some people, they bleed in class, I tell you what. And in this, okay, nobody actually bleeds, but I mean, it's a lot of information. And in the 2-week certification course, you know, it's the same thing, so much information. But when I do these podcasts, I can get more information out there that I just don't have time to do. And also, that's what I love about our externship program, the CD set, what we will call the Banyan Online Supervision CDs. 40 weeks of me sitting down doing just in-depth stuff like this on CD, and you know, you can just study it. By the way, I make an announcement. We are working on a project right now. We know that a lot of you guys would like to be listening to this in your car or otherwise on CD. I expect that within a week or two, or maybe even by the time this podcast gets out there, we're going to have the first 150 episodes available on CD that you can get, and then you can just boom, put them in your car stereo or your boom box or whatever, and be able to listen to them without being tethered to a computer. Now, I know some of you really techie people, you know how to download it from the website, and that's perfectly okay. I want you to do that, and then download it and put it in, synchronize it with your phone or whatever. But a lot of people, you know what, they just want a CD, and so we're going to have a number of CDs. They're going to be in packages of 25, I think. You'll see the details soon. But pretty soon, all these episodes in audio form will be available on CDs, and I think that's going to be a bonanza. Oh, Ben Cartwright. There you go.
Full circle. I love it. Well, we are out of time. Cal, thank you so much for getting into that in a bigger way, in a deeper way, and even if some of it's been covered before, there are new words and little new pieces being added to that puzzle that I am certain everyone's going to get a great deal out of. So thank you, thank you. This has been fantastic. My name is Meredith Locker. You can reach me at meredith@yourpathhypnosis.com, and looking forward to sharing more information with you next podcast. We're not done. We have one more to film today. Thank you so much. Signing off.
Hey, and I want to send a personal invitation out there. Me and my buddy Memo and maybe some other hypnotherapists, we're making the commitment to do the 100-mile Amtrak Century Ride. It's a bicycle ride from not too far from my office all the way down to San Diego, California, and I'd love to have a whole pack of hypnotists riding together and going down there. So I'd love you to do it with me. You can get that information at just Google Amtrak Century Ride. It's going to be in September, and it'll be awesome. Now, I know all of you can't do that, but if you can't do that, what I'd like you to do is make a commitment that you're going to start riding your bicycle, or you're going to start running, you're going to start swimming, because you know what? A healthy hypnotist, a healthy hypnotherapist is going to have a more successful practice. You want to be able to get out there and have the energy, and you want to be an inspiration to others. You know, right, on average, I ride my bicycle 100 miles a week, and I do resistance training and all that stuff to keep my body and mind in balance and focused, so I can get up here and have the energy to do these podcasts for you, to have the energy to work with my clients, to have the energy to be successful in my business, to have the energy to teach class. I was talking with Marilyn Gordon the other day, and she says, man, Cal, I don't know how you teach those classes that are so long all by yourself. About 90% of the class is taught by me exclusively. I do have Elron come in and help, and maybe some other speakers do occasional talk. But let's make this your healthiest year ever. Get on that bike, get jogging, get rowing, whatever it is. Let's be healthy. Let's be the fit hypnotist. This is Cal Banyan, signing off.
This recording is the property of Cal Banyan and Cal Banyan's Banyan Publishing Incorporated. All rights reserved for private use only. It may not be duplicated without written permission.